Hey everyone, the nail stamping plate we're going to be using today is the kind that makes you wonder why you got into stamping in the first place. It has the most fine lines I have ever seen on any stamping plate in the history of stamping plates. So, hi, I'm Queenie. Welcome to today's video. And I am so happy to have you here because today we are going to be talking about working with those fine lines that you find on stamping plates and you can't get them to pick up, you can't get them to stamp, they just don't work and you're just left really frustrated. And why did I even bother? So we're going to be putting together a palm tree design, and I chose this because of this stamping plate. I know it's not summer anymore and we're actually celebrating, the first few days of fall right now. Only on the calendar though. It's still really warm where I live, so I'm just going to suck up the rest of my Indian summer that I possibly can. But this is the color story that we're going to be working with today. It's a different blue and green combination. First, we're going to be doing a technique for sponging, and then we're going to be using the very fine line stamping plate. And then I'm going to be pulling out of my little stamping plate arsenal one of my clear jelly stamper plates that you have to pick and choose all those little pieces and put them together. I'm choosing a really simple one because those two have really fine lines. And I just want to show you how to put that design together. So here are the colors that I'm going to be using. These are not gel. Everything is regular polish. This stamping plate I got from Amazon, and it's the Born Pretty L076. There is the design. Look at how fine those lines are. I think by process of elimination in the world, those are the finest lines on any stamping plate anywhere. And hello in my reflection there. But that little palm tree is what we're going to be putting together for the design. But I got the Born Pretty stamping plates on Amazon. I'll link them below for you. I am using the Chiara Sky short square tips I don't know why my finger made me laugh so hard. The short square tips, and I put on this color nude. Hold on, let me pull that out so I can actually look and see what the name is. It's called In the Nude by LA Colors. It's Color Craze. I use this all the time to make my clear nail tips more opaque because I don't really like painting over clear nail tips unless I'm doing something really fast for myself. I always use this. So when I get it at Dollar General. So when I stop at the Dollar General, I always jump over to the nail polish section and see if they have this in stock. And if they do, I'll buy like 2 or 3 bottles of it because I go through it really fast. And just FYI, there's 2 coats of that on these tips. All right, now we're going to be moving into the first step, and that is going to be sponging on the color for the middle nail and the ring finger. So I'm just going to pop those off of the stand and grab my foam wedges. These are just the Amazon Basics foam wedges. I used to keep them in with my cotton balls in the same drawer, and one of the designs I did, I actually filmed it and uploaded it. Every time I went to sponge something, I had cotton ball fuzz all over everything. So I'm like, okay, well, this is not a good idea. We're taking these out. So now I'm just keeping them in the package for lack of a better place. But these are the 2 nails that are going to get the sponge design prior to the stamping. And we're going to be using 2 colors to do an ombre design. The 2 colors are going to be the what is this called? I have to look. LA Colors Gel in Splashy, and also in Chill Out. The green is Chill Out, the blue is the Splashy, and neither one of these are gel. It just says gel on the bottle. Easy way to tell is if it says gel on the bottle, but the bottle is clear, it's not gel, or it will cure in the bottle. So easy peasy on that one. So I just went through and mixed those up a little bit and almost started to paint the nail rather than the sponge because I was really with it that day. But yeah, so I'm just going to go through and paint on the blue Splashy to the top part of the sponge and then go in and paint the bottom part of the sponge with the green chill out. And we're probably, because of the thinness of this polish, even though it goes on really nice and it blends out really beautifully, which is why I'm using it, we're going to need 3 coats of this because it's just not going to cut it with just 2. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a layer and then we'll let it dry and then we'll do another layer with some fresh polish and just start blending those 2 colors together. And sometimes when you're working with a thinner polish, you have to go over each section separately by itself. You just don't want to overwork the polish, otherwise it'll start to get muddy, and we don't want it to get muddy. So while the first coat of sponging is drying, I'm going to go through and paint all of the other nails with the beautiful green chill out. This is such a beautiful sea foam green, but you can see that this polish is a little bit thin, and I was at this point trying to think, do I need 2 coats? Am I going to need 2 coats of this, or am I going to need 3 coats of this? I wasn't quite sure even at this point right now, but I love this polish because I can buy a ton of it and it doesn't cost me a lot. And I think that's why I really, really like the LA Colors polish. There's so many polishes out on the market that are so expensive. And I just don't think they're worth it sometimes when I just want to put a quick look together. I just don't want to spend a fortune. And the LA Colors just always work really, really well for me. And they're like $2 or $3 at Dollar General, so you can't beat that. Okay, little sponging tip. When you are waiting for the nails on the rack to dry, store your sponge face down on your paper towel like that, especially if those nails are in front of the fan because you don't want your sponge to dry out, and that helps keep it moist. Sorry if you hate the word moist. All right, so these 2 are dry enough for the second coat. The other ones are not. But rather than put them in front of the fan, I'm just going to put them off to the side because I don't want the fan to dry my sponge and my sponging onto the nail too fast, because then we'll just have a big old mess. It'll be, horrible. It'll be anarchy and, sorry for the Breakfast Club reference, but that's what you get when you watch a Gen X nail art channel. I guess you get $2 nail polish recommendations. And references to the Breakfast Club. Welcome, welcome everyone. Oh gosh, so I'm just going through and sponging on more of the colors, going over that edge again. Okay, here's a question for you. Free edges, do you prefer them with the color on them, or do you prefer them filed straight and just no color on them, nothing? Because I see so many people do that when they make press-on nails. I prefer to, put some polish on that free edge, but I'm really kind of curious, like, what do you guys think? Leave me a comment below and let me know what your preference is, because it's just so interesting that people do such different things with the free edge of the nail. I'm old school. I put polish on it. And there are the 2 colors. They're really starting to blend together, but we're going to need another coat. All right, they are dry enough for sponge coat number 3. And I think this is when we're really going to see the colors start to pop off the nail and just get that beautiful ombre blend of like a tropical background. And it's just going to look so pretty. I think sponging is one of the hardest techniques to perfect when you're doing nail art because when you first start out, you tend to overbounce on the nail, and the 2 colors blend together so much on the sponge that you can't blend them on the nail. So again, the best advice that I can give is when you put your polish onto the sponge, make sure that the line on the sponge is definitive. Like, you don't want the 2 colors mushing over each other on the sponge. You want that line to be perfectly straight, and each color has its own space. When you're using 3 colors or 4 colors or 5 colors, which is absolutely possible, you're just going to use that same technique and see how that you get that beautiful blend It's so important not to muddy your colors on your sponge. If you have muddy colors on your sponge, you're going to have muddy colors on the nail. Let me just show you, this is after 3 coats and my line is still very defined. So that's how to do it. Just make sure that you stick with a very gentle bounce. And when you want to blend your 2 colors, you're just going to slightly move the sponge up and down as you bounce it back and forth across the nail. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the second coat of this beautiful chill out color onto the rest of the nails, and then we can get into our stamping. Once I got the second coat on and it dried, I was able to see that I didn't need a third coat. It dried down really nice and was opaque enough for the design look that I was going for. So yeah, we lucked out. So once I got all of the nails polished, I noticed that the 2 that were sponged had a texture to them. And it's from the sponge. The sponge seemed to be a little bit less dense than the sponges that I usually use. So I decided to grab a top coat, which I always use my Essie Good to Go quick dry top coat, but you can see there's like a texture to it. So I just decided to grab the top coat, put a thin coat on of the top coat, which then turned out to be a thick coat of top coat because the texture was a lot deeper than I thought it was. The sponges did an absolutely beautiful blending job, but they left a texture. Would I use them again? Yeah, because I already bought them and I have them, but I would much prefer a little bit better quality sponge. But for getting started and all, these are just fine. And like I said, you can stamp over top coat, no problem. So it's really not an issue. All it did really was add an extra step. So now that's done, we are ready to start our stamping design, and here she is, the stamping plate from HE Double Hockey Sticks. I got this on Amazon, like I mentioned, and it came in a set of, I think, 6 plates. I don't think they're available separately, but the plates actually are really, really good. Can't complain, but yeah, these lines are pretty thin. All right, so let's get started. For this design, I think this jelly stamper is going to work the best. This is the Maniology. I think it's called the Monocle Stamper. I'm not really sure, but it picks up really, really well for me. There's my scraper and my cotton balls and my pineapple grabber that's also from Maniology that lost its pineapple a long time ago. But yeah, you just push that button and these like little metal grabbers come out, and then you can stick your cotton ball right on there. And it works really well for cleaning your stamping plates and your tools and everything else that you need to clean once you get done stamping. And then of course we need the acetone as well. I know I've mentioned this on my channel and I hate to be repetitive, but this really is a very good tip. I bought this acetone on Amazon and I found that that pump from Soft Soap fits it perfectly, and it doesn't allow air to get in, so it doesn't evaporate, and it works really, really well and streamlines, you know, pumping out your acetone, because normally you just have a lid and you have to tilt it over and put the acetone onto the cotton ball. And because if I have my nails done, I don't want to mess up my nails when I'm doing nail designs. So that pump just works really, really well. So just a quick tip there, and moving on. So keeping this look as tropical as possible, I am using the Maniology stamping polish called Plantation Tea. It is number B283. And it's a beautiful, beautiful dark green color, and it is fantastic. I just love this color. All right, the trick to very fine lines is, what do I always say? Using a ton of polish. Use more polish than you think you need. In this design, we need to fill in every single nook and cranny of that design, and you're not going to get that if you don't use a lot of polish. So just go over the entire design with your stamping polish, give it a good 45-degree scrape, and stamp right away. I mean, you got to move, because those lines are so thin that they are not they're going to dry on you really, really fast. So you have to move. All right, so I made a little mistake there. We're going to fix that. I'll show you how to make it. I was so busy rushing and trying to get that stamped onto the nail that I missed the edge. So I attempted very briefly to try to go back in and restamp it, but the lines were already dry. So I just took a minute to figure out how I was going to stamp this on to make the design look finished. Um, so once I figured out how to put it on, then I just grabbed my sticky base coat and popped that right down the edge and gave that a couple minutes to get tacky, and then stamped on the design, and all was good to go. And trust me, if you make a mistake like that, it is not a big deal. Nobody is going to be, inspecting your nails to make sure that they are exactly perfect. Quick little fixes like this are super easy and nobody's going to notice. So I just took an extra second to make sure I was stamping in the right spot and blowing on my base coat to make sure that it gets down to tacky, and then I just stamped it on. I had to go a couple times and just kind of fill in some of the empty spaces, but I think it looked pretty good. That's what it looked like when I got done. Just part of the palm tree as far as anybody else is concerned. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Okay, so now that that is fixed, and I'm kind of glad it happened, so you can see how I fixed it, I want to talk about a few little quick tips on dealing with super fine lines in your stamping plates. So the first one I already mentioned is using a ton of polish. The second one is making sure that you have no fans on in the room anywhere that's making the polish dry faster than it normally would. Tip 3 is to move as fast as humanly possible to get the polish on the stamper or on the stamping plate, and then scrape it off, pick it up with the stamper, and stamp it onto the nail. Don't waste any time. Work as quickly as you can. And if you're still having problems, I would recommend checking the temperature of your stamping plates. You may need to warm it up in your hands just a little bit. A cold plate is very difficult to work with, especially with fine lines. And then my final tip when working with a jelly stamper is sometimes when you first get your jelly stamper, they can be a bit on the oily side and they just won't pick up. They have no stickiness to them at all. In that case, take the stamper out of the holder and place it between two pieces of paper, and then put a book on top of it, like a light book, to hold it into place, and leave it there overnight. The next morning, take it out, put it back in the holder, and try stamping with it then, and see if that helps, because sometimes they're just a little bit too oily, and pulling some of that oil out will most definitely help your future stamping. The index finger is going to get one coat of the Color Club, what's this color? On the Bright Side, it's called. And it's a beautiful green iridescent color, but the shimmer in it is blue, and it is perfect, perfect for this design. And you can see those blue shimmers and how it just ties in with the blue and the sponged nails. Oh, so fun. I love it. All right, let's get started with our palm tree design. This is the Surf's Up California from Clear Jelly Stamper stamping plate, and we're going to be using that little palm tree right there, again with more fine lines. How fun. Again, we want to make sure that we are using a lot of polish, and for the trunks of the tree, I almost said stems, the trunks of the tree, we're going to use Straight Up Black from Maniology. I think using black just makes that stand out a little bit more rather than using a brown, which kind of gets lost in the background. I know this because I did a little test of this design just to see what color I should do the trunks in, and I tried brown at first, and it just wasn't standing out enough, and it kind of got lost in the palm background. So I felt like black was the best way to go. So there we go, with a nice stamp for the trunks. And I'm going to use that same plantation green tea, plantation tea green to do the palms, because rather than throw another color in there, I just felt like this color was just so perfect to use for the palms, even though I already used it for the background palm leaves. It's just like the perfect color. So I didn't want to throw another color in there. I felt like maybe it would just throw it off a little bit. And when I stamped this on, it just looked so good. So I am just taking the little bits of extra polish that I do not need on my stamper. And since that took way longer than I had anticipated, I had to pull out my sticky base coat and just pop a couple little dollops of that where I was going to stamp on my palms because they dried on the stamper. So once that dried down to tackiness, I was able to go in and stamp the palms on the nail. Finally, yay! And look how cute that looks. I love it. It looks so nice, and it's such a muted and pretty type of design. It's not like crazy colors and all of that. It's just, it's muted and beautiful and pretty and green, and I love it. All right, so then I want to just go over and do a quick coat of the Maniology Smudge Free Top Coat. It's a water-based top coat, so it will not smear your stamping polish. However, you have to make sure you do it right. You want to take a nice little dollop, a good bead, and float the bead over the nail till you get a full coat, and then you can kind of brush it out and spread it out a little bit. And then I had a couple little extra things hanging off the side from the palm leaf. But so I just pull those off because once they're dry, they'll just crack off and they won't mess up your design. If you try to pull them off when the design is just a little bit wet, maybe still, it'll pull your whole design off the nail, and you don't want to do that. So if you have anything that hangs off the edge, even though it's super annoying, just wait for it to dry 100%, and then you can kind of scrape off those little extra pieces from your stamping, and you won't ruin your design. Then I took my Essie Good to Go Quick Dry Top Coat, which you know is my favorite, and I went over all of the other nails with that. Normally, for more protection over the water-based top coat, I would put that also on the decorated nails. I just didn't do that for this design because I wanted to make sure everything was drying down quickly so I could model them for you. So let's move into that, and I will show you how they look on. Yay! They came out so good. I'm so happy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, look at that middle nail. You'd never really know that I made a mistake and my design didn't extend all the way to the edge of the nail. And that's why I wanted to show you that today, that like I've been doing this for a while and even I still screw things up sometimes, but there's usually a way to fix it rather than redoing the whole nail. Sometimes you have to, but most of the time you probably don't, especially when there's stamping involved. You can usually just fix stuff. So that's why I wanted to do that for you guys today. I hope you really like this design as much as I do, and you learned how to work with super fine lines in your stamping. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of the design, and I look forward to hearing from you. I will see you in the next one, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.